In Britain, 1 in 400 people die on the roads. Those are odds more than 30,000 times greater than winning the lottery jackpot.
I saw something. Right. It scared me, so I swerved and I spun round.
And new drivers are by far the most at risk.
He hasn't passed his test yet.
Yeah, I know that.
So he hasn't shown that he's safe to drive with. He doesn't know what he's looking for.
Beating the odds is sometimes a matter of lady luck.
Quite how she was able to survive from that, I will never know. If she was in a position to, she should have done the lottery that night.
There were nearly 3,000 accidents on the roads in Hertfordshire last year. Surprisingly, a quarter of them, like the one PC's Nathan Catley and Chris Payne are just hearing about, involved a vehicle on its own.
The Whiskey 4, sorry, we've been on a stop, just been advised of a likely 2 in your ground. Can you give us details, please?
A likely 2 is a likely to prove fatal, the worst possible kind of accident.
One vehicle RCC, 2 people on track.
The crash is on a country lane over 20 miles away. Not ideal when someone needs help fast.
When it's a serious injury, we as traffic officers will attend. And at that point, we were the only roads policing unit available to go. We're talking 20-minute emergency run in the early afternoon traffic.
We're going to be the ones that have to investigate this and pick up the pieces after this. We can't do that if it's taken us 20-25 minutes to get to the thing. Because by the time we get there, everything's gone.
The female driver has been extricated by paramedics already at the scene and is awaiting an air ambulance.
The Whiskey 4 arrival.
Upon arrival, there was a number of other emergency services already in attendance, and the air ambulance had already landed at that point.
The car has left the road and is wrapped around a tree.
The damage that did to her vehicle was unbelievable.
The tree had peeled back the roof. It had peeled it back like a tin opener, and the largest branch of the tree was exactly where her head would have been. The ambulance service were very worried for her.
Now they're here, the experienced traffic cops will take command.
She was clearly in a lot of pain. She'd had her arm trapped under the car as it had gone into the ditch. So there was blood loss, bone damage, and a head injury. And although it's horrible to hear somebody moaning in that pain, it's also a good sign, because if they're moaning, that means they are at least conscious and breathing.
How long have you been there?
Why the car careered off the road is a complete mystery.
Nobody had actually seen the crash happen. There were a couple of people who had stopped, obviously shortly afterwards, but the car was already in the ditch.
I was just driving past, see the car there, and honestly thought it was kids at night. Car gone down there, they've done a runner, and that's it. I don't know why, instinct, I got 500 yards or maybe more up the road. I just don't know why. Turn around, come back, stop there, heard the music, and I heard the moan and groaning.
If nobody had stopped, she would not still be alive.
She was fairly young. She'd only been driving for, I think it was a matter of 3 weeks. How she survived, I still don't know. She was displaying signs of a very serious head injury.
It's quite amazing what the body can endure.
I had serious concerns for her.
The car is a Vauxhall Corsa and it's almost completely unrecognisable. Traffic Sergeant Carl McDermott has arrived to lead the investigation into what happened to it.
I have to be honest and say that I didn't expect her to survive, and that's why we treated that scene as if it were a fatal collision. We're treating it as a likely to prove.
Documents in the car have identified the girl as an 18-year-old teenager, Kelsey South.
Kelsey Siobhan South.
Unfortunately, as hard as it may sound, you are desensitised to a lot of things that you see, and that's purely because if you're not, you'll go mad.
The injured girl is going to be airlifted to a specialist trauma centre at St Mary's Hospital in Paddington.
When the first paramedics arrived on the scene from Chesham and found the woman severely trapped against a tree stump, they managed to actually crawl in the boot of the car to treat and stabilise her by waiting for the fire service and the air ambulance team to get to the scene.
She was trapped by nature injuries and she was also trapped by steering wheel and the compaction of the vehicle on that area, and lots of sharps as well, which we need to contend with.
If she pulls through, a lot of it will be down to the team effort of all the emergency services.
Well, you can imagine if she was sitting driving, her head would have been about here.
With no witnesses to the crash, PC Bob Wagstaff, a specialist accident investigator, has been called in to help determine the cause.
Weather today's playing havoc. We've obviously got light conditions, dry conditions. Subsequently, we've got heavy showers. So at the moment, we've got information at the time of the crash, the road surface was wet. Vehicles come through an undulated road system. It's on a bend. It looks like the driver's gone up onto the grass verge. In order to come off the verge, she's put some right-hand steering on, and consequently she's then come off back onto the tarmac or back onto the road surface, and consequently she's got steering again and gone across the road onto the offside.
From the evidence, Bob will be able to say what took place, but not why it happened. The possibility is that something distracted the driver.
But there was a phone call. Now, whether that happened immediately at the time of the crash, whether she was on the phone, or whether it just rang and she looked down at it, and all it takes is that momentary lapse to lose sight of the road, and you've lost control of the car.
Mercifully, the news from the hospital is that Kelsey is going to survive.
She should have done the lottery that night, because someone was looking down on her that day.
40 miles away near Bedford, traffic cops Chris Norton and Tanveer Hussain are dreaming it could be them who'll win the lottery.
Did you win the lottery?
No, mate. If I won the lottery, do you think I'd still be at work?
I don't know.
If I won the lottery, that would be it. You and I would be millionaires, and we would be...
Gone.
And I'd be driving the best cars.
Today, they hope to have luck on their side. And to increase the odds of hitting the jackpot, they're in an unmarked police car.
It's a good tool. It's not about sneaking up on drivers all the time. It's just about being in an area. There's certain jobs that we could go to and arrive there discreetly.
Someone driving without much discretion has caught Tan's attention.
1 minute. Go left, go left, go left, go left, go left, go
okay.
left. I'm not getting any vibes on that. No
Yeah,
insurance, and it's gone left over there. It's a little red old Polo. It's gone left into that bit there.
L-Reg old Polo driving along with about 4 or 5 people in it. So I think that would be worth a look. And they all look fairly young.
Tan's BlackBerry is hooked up to the police national computer.
Yeah, it's just disappeared in the distance.
And it's telling him the car's not legal.
Is that Lima 392 GBM?
It's 5 up.
Right, it has.
It's a young boy.
Insurance.
And we could tell straight away from the driving style that the driver didn't have any experience.
And he's no idea a police car's right behind him. But even so...
They will have that one. I've seen some pretty stupid things, but that was indecisive. So we tried to brake and then accelerate at the same time, but the brakes didn't all work. The 3 locked up and one wheel carried on, which caused the car to swerve. That was just inexperience shouting out towards us.
Unlike its novice driver, the car is decidedly past its prime.
It's one of the worst I've ever come across. It was a shocker. It wasn't roadworthy. You could tell it wasn't roadworthy. The wheels looked decidedly on their last legs.
Hello, mate. How are you? Come and have a look at your car. It's in a right old state, isn't it?
Yeah.
What happened there at the traffic lights? I think you tried to stop, but it just didn't quite work, did it?
Yeah, I just got caught a bit.
Okay.
Short.
Is it your vehicle?
Yeah, it is.
Registered in your name?
Not yet. I've recently bought it.
How long is recent?
About a week ago.
Okay.
But in the process of going through.
Okay. Be honest with me.
No.
Do you have insurance?
No, I don't.
Okay. Pop yourself in the back. I'm going to quickly get some details from you, and we'll go from there. The other side, please. No insurance.
The outside of the car was bare trim, rust, probably the rust holding it together. The windscreen wipers didn't look really effective. And then when I opened the door, it just, it stank. It was full of rubbish and dirt and old food, just detritus from everyday life.
It needs a good hoover, doesn't it?
Do you have any identification on you?
I don't.
Nothing at all? Oh, what have you got? What have you got, mate? You're not disqualified, are you?
No.
Okay. Never been disqualified?
I've got...
Okay, mate. No worries. Just pop yourself.
The lad is only 17.
And what type of licence do you have? You don't have a licence as well, so no licence, no insurance, you have absolutely nothing?
No. I was only moving the car because it couldn't stay where it was.
So what's the score with the 3 girls in the back then? What happens if you have an accident?
Well, it was just a bit stupid really. I was with them and I had to move it because it can't, where it was at the minute, I didn't want it getting reported as being dumped because it was in the, do you know Cage?
Yeah, I know where you are.
That little car park.
Okay, fair enough.
And I didn't want it getting dumped or getting burnt out, so I know it's no excuse. But
no, it's not. It's not good at all, mate, if I'm being honest. So you've never taken your test at all?
No.
And cross at the fact that he's put his friends in that situation. God forbid, should something happen, he's involved in an accident and it transpires he's 17 years old, he hasn't even passed his test, he has no insurance.
The illegal car is going to be seized.
He's got no licence and no insurance.
Did any of you know that he didn't have a licence?
I did. Yeah.
If he hasn't got a licence, he hasn't passed his test, yeah?
Yeah, I know that.
So he hasn't shown that he's safe to drive with. He doesn't know what he's looking for. So you four just putting your lives in your hands. What? That thing at the lights, that was a crossroad, that's a blind hill. If somebody chanced it and they thought they were coming over the top of that hill and he did that stupid manoeuvre, I'll be calling your mums. It's not worth it. Always check the driver's got licence. Not nice going to somebody's mum and dad saying, sorry, your daughter or your son's dead. What is going to happen, girls? Luke, we're taking the car.
Okay.
All right? Because he hasn't got a licence and he hasn't got insurance. This is now my car and his name's now Carlos. All right? It's not funny. Don't get in a car with somebody who hasn't got a licence.
They didn't fully understand the consequences of what could happen, which is a shame, because it only takes one accident or them to see the horrific injuries that we see, and that would put a stop to it straight away.
Come on then, on your dancers. Bye-bye.
When it comes to lessons, Carlos is in a class of his own.
My nan's a driving instructor. But
I can't believe how stupid he was. He gets driving lessons for free. Beggar's belief. You're given a golden ticket and you just dash it away. I was slightly gobsmacked by that.
I just met these literally 15 minutes before and then dumped in the car.
With the cost of insurance over £4,000 for 17 to 20-year-old males, it's hardly surprising so many drive around illegally.
I think he's quite proud of the fact he hasn't got a licence. Insurance. Every year it's going up. So, can these young drivers afford it? Some of them can, some of them can't. And the ones who can't decide, hey, what's the point? I'll just drive with no insurance and no licence. And if I get caught, I'll get caught. You know, they'll go to court or they'll be summoned to court and they might get a fine of 150 quid with 3 points. And they'll be back out doing it again.
Tackling bad crashes and dealing with their consequences is one of the biggest parts of a traffic cop's job. and it's never long before they're called to another one.
We're attending a report of a collision at a road in Hemel Hempstead. Reports are it's a single vehicle that's hit a pedestrian. Allegedly, the pedestrian has received possibly fatal injuries, and there are persons trapped in the car.
All the emergency services have been called to the scene.
Go to the near side.
And once again, Nathan and Carl will take centre stage. But this time, along with some school kids who are playing dead, they're making a drama out of a crisis.
One casualty knocked down on the floor.
Okay. Can you hear me, Sarge?
We went along to that reconstruction to act what we do on a daily basis. We're going to need AMBO and fire brigades to the scene. We've got possibly one fatality. A bit of a shock tactic, really. And it's almost got to the point where that's the only way to get through to people, is to show them what's going to happen.
The hard-hitting reenactment is specifically aimed at new drivers.
When was your last drink?
Yeah.
A few hours ago, okay. How old are you?
17.
It's all about getting across a very real message. It could be you.
Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Stop. Done.
It takes a few seconds for that device to get...
Okay, the device has indicated to me that you are over the legal limit. So at this stage you're under arrest. All the characters were being played by students from the school. The pedestrian had died and there were some injuries inside the car. And the driver had been drinking. Okay, on this way.
Obviously we want our kids to be safe, and it's us all doing that little bit to hopefully get that message through, be safe on the road.
Some people respond to being spoken to, but many need to see it before they'll believe what's going on. And you get the sights, the sounds, the smells of a collision scene.
We all know that people have this thing of it'll never happen to me. And I think certainly young drivers have that attitude.
I didn't realise how many people they need, like all the procedures they had to go through, and there really is so much to think about. And yeah, I just hadn't really thought of it in that way before. It's like, if this was real, it'd be really scary.
And once they can relate to it, once they can think that could be me there, I could be that dead person, I could be that person being arrested, that's when it has the desired effect.
17 and 18-year-olds, especially males, are statistically far more likely to be involved in serious accidents than any other drivers. But it's not just ones involving young men that the traffic cops go to these days.
We've certainly seen recently that we've had a fair few collisions involving young female drivers. We certainly see a higher percentage with young male drivers, but it does seem to be that there seems to be more and more involving young female drivers.
Only a matter of minutes after their school visit, Carl and Nathan are being called to a crash involving a young girl.
There he is, bang. No, he hasn't even hit the barrier. No.
It's another single vehicle accident.
We're driving back northbound on the A1.
06 arrived.
A vehicle has spun out of control from lane 2, across to the hard shoulder, back across the carriageway again.
We're going to need a recovery from that.
Hits the central reservation and then comes to arrest, involving a driver who's been driving for 7 months.
She's claiming something ran out in front of her.
I have no idea what it was. I was looking at the road and I just saw something. And
right.
It scared me, so I swerved and I spun round, and then the back of my car hit the rail there, and then I just stopped.
Right. Okay. Losing control of her car at 70 miles an hour on a motorway as a young driver, that must have been one hell of a frightening experience for her. We have to report the damage to the barrier there.
Yeah.
Because that has to go off to the Highways Agency, and they may well have to repair that, so we have to do a collision book.
Yeah.
My colleague at the moment, so we'll come and take some details from you. One of the standard things we have to do is breathalyse you.
Yeah.
It's procedure, it's routine, and after any accident we breath test someone.
Yeah.
How old are you?
18.
Okay. Is this your first accident?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Seal your lips around the tube and blow steadily through it in one long continuous breath until I tell you to stop. Keep blowing. That's it. It's fine, thank you. That analyses the sample that you've given. Nice, 0. Okay. Take hold of the end of the tube for me, please, nice and tightly. No offence, but we don't like to keep them.
Oh, that's right.
I like you've had your mouth around it, so that's your little souvenir, all right?
It looks as though the car has drifted into the central reservation, which would tend to suggest some kind of distraction.
And I was just completely looking at the road, and all of a sudden, in the corner of my eye, I just saw something. And my instinct, I hate running things over. I ran over a bunny rabbit, and I literally just swerved, and I don't even remember what happened. I just and I just saw something in the corner of my eye.
To see a bunny rabbit running across the motorway when you're doing 70 miles an hour is quite an achievement, and then to then do something about it. I don't know, she seemed like she did like fluffy bunnies.
The girl's learning about road safety the hard way.
I won't swerve for bunny rabbits anymore. They're little, I'd rather survive than a bunny rabbit. A couple of men pulled over and got my car out of the road, and then someone else came over. Do you mind if I go speak to my dad quickly?
She was quite happily talking to us about what had happened. Then Dad turned up. That's what puts the emotional aspect into the crash then. It's gone from being, oh, your car's damaged, to, yeah, the emotional effects of what's happened.
I don't think we'll ever see this car again, mate. Through my guess.
I shouldn't think so. Well, you can get... It's going to our recovery agent.
No, I mean
and you can
in
go
terms of like...
Yeah, so you can go there and get anything, yeah, rather than having to empty the whole thing. I know what girls are like, yeah. Fill the car up with rubbish.
Despite the damage, Dad's a happy bunny.
I'm just relieved she's okay, truthfully. I mean, I've got 3 doors. They've all had accidents before. The cars are always repaired. Just nice to see her safe and okay.
I hope it wasn't him that was teaching them to drive.
The accident's being put down to very unlucky timing.
If what that young girl says is true, and it was a rabbit that ran across in front of her 5 seconds earlier, and nothing would have happened 5 seconds later, and nothing would have happened. But just being in that place at that time has led to that crash.
Thank you. Bye.
She may not have thought so, losing her car, but perhaps the luck of the rabbit's foot was with her after all.
She's actually bloody lucky she didn't go straight up and hit that. That would have been game over, wouldn't it?
You can see from the shape of the skid mark that the car's going sideways down here.
The cops aren't entirely convinced about the rabbit story.
And you can see it's not a violent swerve over as would have been suggested by the young lady's account. The marks here suggest that she's gradually come over the rumble strip and then they abruptly end, and that fits in with where the tyre marks then swerve back off towards the hard shoulder. So that doesn't quite fit in with the swerving to the near side to avoid something.
It's driver error, but the cops won't be pursuing any charges.
There is no punishment, no one else is involved. Had there been other vehicles involved, had someone else been hurt, then we may be looking at an offence, possibly a due care. We might start looking at phone records. But in this case, if there's only her involved, there's not much else that we either can or maybe would want to do. And we just hope that she does learn a lesson from that and it becomes a safer driver.
Motorways are Britain's safest roads by far, but when accidents happen on them, the outcome and the chaos they cause is usually much worse than on any other kind of road.
Yeah, copy that. Do we know if they're trapped and injured or just physically trapped? Or...
Keith Nicholson and his partner Andy Scales have just got news about one on the M1. A person's trapped and possibly injured. But that's not all. A haul of guns has been discovered in his vehicle.
We're thinking the most important thing is it going to be a threat to us? Are we going to have to shut the whole motorway, get everyone out of the way, call the armed response guys in? Is it going to be a massive siege? Have they been damaged? Are they likely to explode? Is there a fire? Are they likely to go off in our faces? All sorts of things go through our mind.
First, though, is the problem of getting to the scene. There are miles of clogged up contraflow to get through.
If it helps the Foxtrot units, we found access to a works lane a couple of 100 yards after 13 on the southbound.
News of casualties is still sketchy.
Well, we don't know that there is no one dying, because at the minute we've only got a couple of HATOs on scene. Can you imagine a fire engine trying to get through, which is possible, will have to happen in a few minutes. If the person's trapped, they're going to have to be cut out.
The HATOs that are already here are the Civilian Highways Patrol. They're trying to deal with a multi-vehicle pile-up.
There were 4 vehicles involved, a nose-to-tail shunt.
But the people there, can we get them over here? Come over here. And I was initially fairly keen to get these people to safety as quickly as possible.
There's some concern for the driver of the people carrier who's got a sore back and neck.
Hello there.
Hello, mate.
How are we doing?
But Keith's more worried about what he's carrying.
I went and spoke to the driver straight away.
What have you got in the back?
It's crime scene equipment. There's a red ammunition box. It's got 3 replica firearms in it, and somewhere in the back there, in a bag, is a replica shotgun. I teach crime scene management and examination.
He was scenes of crime instructor, and so all the firearms were all imitations.
Yeah, any ammo or anything?
Only replica ammunition and firearms. You said there's a replica shotgun in there as well.
The weapons are legal, but now there's another problem.
The fire brigade have stopped on the opposing carriageway to assess the situation. The firemen now want to stop that side to quickly get him out here, but that's never going to work because that's a live motorway. So they've got to come this side and park there.
This is going to go somewhere, I don't want that. Obviously left in there.
The guns in the car aren't functional, but armed response cops are coming anyway, just to make sure.
There's nothing that will injure you, apparently. It's all duds, it's all imitation firearms. There's no ammo, no nothing. The fact that they weren't being waved round by anyone was quite nice. It was a normal crash. It just happened to have some obscure objects in it.
Yeah, he does crime scene management, so all his stuff is imitation from the point of view of...
Can we get him to sort his own scene out then?
The driver's not badly hurt, but he's trapped in the wreckage.
We've got firemen in there trying to hold his C-spine and what have you. As far as access goes to getting in there, he's wedged real tight against the
by the lorry, yeah?
Yeah, into the back of the Beamer. The car was well wedged against the central crash barrier.
More firemen are arriving, on the right side this time.
I'm just going to take a few pictures just in case it turns. The gentleman seems okay, but he's just complaining about back pain and neck, so...
It's looking like another roof-off job to get the man out.
Normally, if there were no occupants in it, we'd just get a tow truck and drag it. If someone's got a broken spine, being in a car that's being dragged isn't a particularly delicate arrangement, and we want to preserve his chance of recovery to cut him out by other means, and that's where the fire brigade come in with their specialist kit and training. What car are you from? Okay, and you're the truck driver I'm taking. Right, okay.
The drivers of the 3 other vehicles involved are all unhurt.
Now the cavalry's arrived, I can concentrate on talking to you a little bit.
It wasn't a little stray bunny to blame this time, but a little red car that has vanished.
So I was driving on this road and there was a car in front of me which was red, and it kept slowing down and speeding up, and then I noticed, so I slammed my brakes down, but I didn't have enough time to put the hazard lights on, so obviously the car behind me had to brake too, but it obviously went into the back of me, the same with the car behind and the car behind that.
She was the one who was trying to avoid the mysterious little red car, managed to avoid that and then got hit from behind. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. That's it, magic. Well, you did it better than the other guy. There you go, 000, okay? It's your souvenir, because it's got your dribble on it.
Dad, I'm just with the policeman giving him my details.
She was a student returning home from university, and she had all her worldly possessions in the car.
All of a sudden she jumped on the brakes, so I jumped on the brakes and just about stopped, and suddenly got a thump from behind. I had a look behind and saw a great big truck and the poor man behind, so I pulled over, stopped. It was quite serious. It was, it's a relatively small thump, because I couldn't have been that quick because the airbag on my car didn't go off. I believe that I'd stopped before anything had happened, and then suddenly somebody, you can't stop these trucks doing 40, 50 miles an hour in a hurry.
Had the 26-ton lorry been going any faster, the consequences could have been disastrous.
Although it stopped in a very, very fast time, it wasn't quite enough. I don't know why she just stopped, but there's nothing there.
Some people might say that it's the red car's fault because he's been driving erratically and weaving lanes. Some people may say it's the blue car's fault because she's the one that's come to an abrupt halt and has had the first impact. Now, I would say that it's the people behind should be leaving enough room to stop. It's kind of one of those, whose fault is it? We'll leave it to someone else to argue in court. It's 6 one, half a dozen of the other.
Shutting the carriageway is a very costly business and not something the cops take lightly.
At the end of the day, if you're talking about somebody's life, and if you don't deal with a back injury in the right way, then they could be paralysed for the rest of their lives.
The fire brigade aren't getting a chance to practice their cutting skills. The driver's finally been freed without the need to take his roof off.
The only way that they could get him out was to go in through the boot. They had to empty everything out, take all the seats out. I think it was a 7-seater, so they had a fair distance to get through.
In the process, they've had to move a small arsenal of very realistic-looking weapons.
This was some of the stuff that was in the back of I mean, it's an imitation, it is plastic, but still looks pretty realistic.
The accident is going to be left to the insurance companies to resolve.
We never traced the car in front, this mystery little red car. As far as the driver of that was concerned, may not have even been aware that there's a crash behind them. Certainly there was no impact with it, so it's quite likely that they didn't even know of the chaos that they'd caused in their wake.
Chris and Tan in the unmarked car are still scouring Bedfordshire for bad drivers. Prevention is always better than cure when it comes to accidents. The driver ahead's in a bit of a hurry.
Sure, it's 30 along here. It is.
All the cars in front seem to be going over the speed limit, but the Ford Focus is tailgating as well.
He was just really aggressive. He was driving about 40 to 50 down a 30-mile-an-hour road. He was looking for overtakes that weren't there.
Chris and Tan are going to pull the driver over and have a word.
After the lights, after the lights. After the lights, turn left. No, keep going, keep going. You alright? Do us a favour, follow us, it might be easier. I just want to have a quick word with you. We were actually on our way to something else. We were looking at a couple of disqualified drivers having had some intelligence. So I think on that occasion, a stern word of advice, just a ticking off, was suffice.
The man's been playing cricket.
What's up with your driving?
Yeah, I don't know. To be honest, it's a bit related to my performance. We won and stuff, but this is going to sound ridiculous, but I'm an opening batsman and had a really scratchy innings. I ended up 30 not out. We were only chasing 100. I was pissed off with myself, and I think I'm probably just a bit frustrated.
Okay, don't bring it on the road. Keep it on the pitch.
Yeah,
because let me tell you, you're driving down the 603. Okay, there's 6 cars in front of you, all going along at most probably the speed limit that they should be going. You're trying to get too close. It means you're braking every 5 seconds because you're driving too close to the car in front. Your speed is a lot higher than theirs. That's why you're braking. Coming along here, it's 30 miles an hour. You're doing 50, 48 along here, up to 50 along here, and then you're braking because they're doing 30 in front of you. Regardless of whether you're in a shit mood or not, you can't bring it out on the road.
There's no excuse.
No,
You're right.
it's not, because your position on your road is almost like you're looking to overtake 5 cars, and the overtake is not on,
Mate,
especially along the
there's no
603.
excuse of why I've just
Do me a favour, take a couple of minutes out, just relax,
Yeah, I'm going to go to Tesco's, I'm going to buy a few groceries.
and then get yourself home. Yeah, it's not the end of the world, trust me. Honestly, it's not. I'd rather you get home in one
sorry,
piece.
yeah.
Slow down, keep your distance from the car in front, and keep an eye on the speed limit. If it says 30, it's 30 for a reason, okay? Not 40, not 50.
Okay, mate.
Please.
Tan's being a good sport, letting him off with a warning.
No, the excuse was not acceptable. Far from it. Clearly, I think he needs to open his eyes a bit and go out in the real world.
For a moment, he was on a sticky wicket.
He scored 30 not out. He opened the batting. They were chasing 100 runs, and he was just upset with himself at the fact that he only scored 30 runs. And that's why. I said, well, don't bring that out on the road. Keep that on the pitch or back at the cricket club. You know, if he's concerned and upset about scoring 30 runs, and maybe he shouldn't open the batting.
30 runs isn't bad in the grand scheme of things.
I was thinking, I was expecting a bit more. I opened the batting and I made 30 not out. We were chasing 100. Well, I'm really sorry, mate.
Yeah, you still got flipping 9 men to go.
Back on the A1, Carl and Nathan have got a difficult decision to make. Is it, or is it not, time to take tea?
As we're here and it's that sort of time.
Are you thinking Junction 10?
I'm thinking going slightly north of Junction 10, yeah.
Maybe to an establishment where is renowned for providing the filth with coffee.
British Petroleum, Inksworth.
Do you know what, mate? I'm going to turn my rear ends off first.
Should we do that?
And then I'm going to say, I like you. I like your thinking. Do you know that?
Not a lot. Love the way you're foul little mind.
I shall call you Mini-Me.
But all of a sudden, there's a googly in the works.
Look at that, just straight out and at 40 miles an hour.
It's another driver with a speed problem, but if this one's a cricketer, he must be the slow bowler in the team.
He was only doing around 35 to 40 miles an hour. He's either distracted, we're doing 30 miles an hour. Pissed. When you see someone driving that slowly on a fairly quiet motorway, it's going through your mind, oh, we've got a drink driver here. He didn't speed up. And whilst we go on that speed kills, unfortunately sometimes driving too slowly can cause collisions.
The driver's going to be pulled over to see just what his game is.
Are you Kenneth? Yes. All right, just step over here for me for a second. The reason we've stopped you is just because of your lack of speed. I know it might sound like a strange thing. You're doing 30 to 40 miles an hour coming up the slip road and enjoying a motorway at 40
Well, I very
miles an hour.
seldom drive on motorways. I've been drinking.
All right. Have you got your driving licence with you?
No, but I've got ID. What's my ID?
Please.
It's not just the young and speedy that are drawn to the attention of the cops. Kenneth is 69, not out.
This is the first time in 69 years that I've ever been stopped by the police. This is an experience.
Right, you can note this one down.
Okay.
Right, what's your date of birth?
23rd 11th 1941. It was a Sunday.
23rd 11th.
Whittington Hospital, St Mary's
41.
Street, during an air raid.
Oh.
That explains a lot, doesn't it?
Didn't get hit while you were being born.
No. My mum was worried though, apparently.
The person I thought he reminded me of, and it was more the glasses than anything, is Ruben out of Ocean's 11, the casino chap, 1970s sort of disco type bloke.
What, you just checking on me, see if I'm legit?
Yeah. I've got to be honest with you, Kenneth. We thought you might have had a drink or two because of the speed.
No.
Or lack of it.
No.
When I first spoke to him, I still thought we've probably got a drink driver here because he was a little bit woo, a little bit way. But that's obviously just his way.
Extraordinarily, Kenneth's been done for pace before,
coloured points. For speeding. 37 miles an hour. Yeah, 37. I don't have accidents.
We'll do a little bit more than 40 mile an hour on the motorway.
50? Just 55? That's top whack.
Okay. Well, whatever you're comfortable with, but joining at 40 miles an hour is likely to cause something. Not so much now because it's a little bit quieter, but if you're doing it with any traffic, all right.
I can appreciate that.
Okay.
There's nothing on the roads like
I know.
this here.
Right.
Because people can't afford the petrol. I might save up for this trip.
Well,
he's doing more.
Yeah, there you go. He's making up for you.
If everyone we dealt with was like that, our job would be so much easier.
It's when darkness falls that the worst road accidents usually happen. And tonight is no exception. It's nearly midnight, and Carl's on his way to a shocking incident.
Okay, en route.
A cyclist has been badly injured, and possibly worse, on the A10, the London to Cambridge road.
Apparently there might be a push bike next to him, so I don't know if there's been an accident or not, or whether it's someone who's just fallen off his bike.
The A10 is a fast dual carriageway, hardly a place to be cycling. Especially this part of it, which is pitch black.
The local unit completely shut the A10, or we're in the process of doing that.
Sierra 60 Whiskey 7 are coming. If they can start putting a taper just north of the Ware junction to bring everything off at the 602 from the person.
There was a local car there and also a paramedic response vehicle.
Right, what we got?
Basically, just turned up, he was here a couple of minutes after. He was rolled over, so he's on his side, bicycle's there, rolled over, he's just confirmed deceased, that's it, you've arrived. These three chaps here have stopped and found him in different vehicles, no other vehicle involved here.
The cyclist was laying to the near side and his bicycle was just in front of him.
The man is dead, and it's looking like he's been struck by a vehicle that hasn't stopped. A hit and run.
There are 3 members of the public at this scene. I think they've come across it. They're just being spoken to by the local officers and just getting all their details. I'll wait till we've got some traffic units to the scene to start getting accounts. But from the state of the pedal cycle he was riding, it would appear at this stage that it's a fail to stop. No other vehicles have stopped at the scene, so it will be a complete closure on the A10 southbound.
It was clear from both his injuries and the damage to the bike that it had been a very high-speed impact.
Remarkably, a violin case has been found undamaged, just a few yards away from the twisted remains of the victim's bicycle.
How was he when you found him? Was he faced over?
Face down. His jacket was rolled up over his head, so we've had to roll it.
So I take it his face would have been here, would it?
Yeah, face was there.
So almost.
All the blood.
So you've literally just pulled him over as he was.
Pulled his jacket down. That's it.
Okay.
Sadly, the paramedics had been unable to resuscitate the man when they arrived.
I don't think you ever get used to it, but you have to remember that you're dealing with someone's loved one, and in that you deal with it as professionally as possible. Yes, we may have to close the road, which may well inconvenience other people, but it's imperative that we conduct a proper and professional investigation for that person and for their family, so that they know exactly what happened, and so that if it's required, justice can be done.
And that means finding out the man's name and why he was riding along the dual carriageway, and tracing the driver that hit him.
They just saw a male on the floor, yeah.
A couple of men chanced upon the cyclist.
They found him, yeah, no witnesses to the collision.
Just as we were driving down the road, spotted the bike, and then as we shot past it, just caught the clothes out the corner of my eye. Went up to the roundabout, spun round, and pulled up behind him, and you could see there weren't a lot left there.
It is dark and it's a fast road, and people do tear along here, but you know, it's you wouldn't expect to see a bike on a road, you know, this dark.
Yeah, it's dreadful when somebody don't stop. Yeah.
We do see it on a fairly regular basis, but this is something that's quite deeply shocking for them.
Well, it's horrific, isn't it? You know, somebody's obviously done some damage and hung around to see the result.
But some vital clues have been left behind.
He's certainly missing its near side wing mirror.
Carl is turning detective.
Possibly, and this is only possibly, other bodywork damage to the near side, but most certainly near side wing mirror missing. Can we give the details as soon as possible to Essex and the Met, please?
Looking at the debris, we saw it was a chrome effect headlight housing, and both myself and Adam had come to the conclusion it was from a Mini.
It's a great lead for the cops. However, no clues to identify the bike rider have been found. Who he was is a mystery.
Out there somewhere is a family, and they need to be told. And the earlier that we can get a positive identification on that person, the earlier we can let them know.
Oh, we must have done ECG, yeah?
Searching the body is a part of what we do. A not very nice part, but something nonetheless that we have to do. He had substantial injuries, so very heavy impact injuries, substantial blood loss.
The cops' only hope for a quick identification is a specialist piece of equipment that can read fingerprints.
Adam had used the mobile ID device. He'd managed to get a fingerprint from the cyclist.
The device is connected via a BlackBerry to the police's national fingerprint database.
Let's try and identify him without having to go through his pockets at this stage. We were only able to use it on one finger. It's come back with a result, so we're just running that through now.
The man's a local musician, 37-year-old James McGee.
Because we'd got an early identification on James, we were able to identify his home address, and a family liaison officer in place, PC Rowley Smith, and together with PC Holmes, they were at the address and had informed his parents.
Almost half an hour has passed since the accident happened, and the cops have just received a very important phone call.
We've had contact from a driver of the vehicle that we believe is involved. She's contacted our control room to say that she believes she was in a collision somewhere around 30 minutes before calling us, and she believes she was involved in a collision on this stretch of the A10. She's told us that she left the dual carriageway at the next junction, where she's examined her vehicle and found some damage.
I think because I'm quite a cynical person, I was actually wondering whether it was actually the driver, or whether it was actually somebody covering for another driver.
Drink drivers are the most likely to flee an accident.
Because the person had already left the scene, we need to interview that person, because she and her car are part of the crime scene.
To avoid any possibility of evidence being transferred from the crime scene, traffic cops based in Watford, PC's Tony Knibb and Tim Hill, have been called in to talk to the driver and check out her car.
All the other officers from that side of the county were involved at the scene. Now, from a cross-contamination point of view, those officers then couldn't leave the scene and then go and deal with a possible offender or go and touch the vehicle. So we were asked, as we'd been completely uninvolved with anything that had gone on prior to that, to go to where this vehicle could potentially be.
The offender is going to be arrested.
Looking for a little Mini.
For causing death by dangerous driving. It carries a maximum 14-year prison sentence.
I can't see it, mate.
Tango 3 Whiskey 1. We have arrived. The car is on the driveway with damage on the front of that vehicle consistent with hitting a cyclist. She believed she'd hit an animal. So we actually had to tell her that she'd actually killed somebody on the road.
The news has come as a total shock to the girl.
She physically broke down, and at one point she had to walk into the back garden and was physically sick.
So the young lady's been arrested.
I'm just going to breath test her, so I'm going to get the kit out of the car.
There's a possibility that she may have been drinking. We didn't know that, so we had to conduct a roadside breath test on her, which we did inside the house there, and she blew a 0.
The cops are satisfied they've got the right person.
She openly admitted to being the driver of that vehicle, so she's been arrested by me at this point for causing death by dangerous driving. So at the moment we're just waiting for recovery of the vehicle, to have it taken away to be examined forensically, and then we'll take her into custody and we'll have her dealt with in custody.
The girl's account is that of another chance event, something that could have happened to anyone.
She's extremely distraught. She didn't realise she'd hit a person. She said she saw no lights. She was just driving along in lane 1, as she believes, and she's hit what she thought was an animal. She's pulled over at the side of the road, a little bit further up the road, and she's called her father and a boyfriend as well, and said she thinks she's hit an animal and had an accident in the vehicle. Her boyfriend's gone and driven the vehicle back to the home address here, where she's been good enough to phone the police and spoken to her dad as well, and he's advised her to phone the police.
Not stopping at the scene of an accident and failing to report it would have been another offence.
Saved us an awful lot of aggravation in trying to trace a vehicle, of which we only have the briefest of details. We then conveyed her back to Hatfield Police Station, and really she was probably in the wrong place at the wrong time.
But what needs to be discovered before any conclusions can be drawn is whereabouts on the road was the cyclist, and could he have been avoided?
His main injuries appear to be on the near side. It's his left arm. He's got some injuries to his left leg as well.
It's another assignment for crash detective Bob Wagstaff. But first, a little light needs to be shed on things.
The collision investigators, SOCOs, need to be able to see what they're doing. We need to be able to locate the evidence that's there. So we had lighting put up at the scene.
The cops have got something especially for the job. An inflatable lighthouse. SOCO, or Scenes of Crime officers, are here as well.
We'll seize that because we'll be going to the vehicle probably in a couple of days and we'll do the mechanical fits.
Hopefully they will be able to tell us where the pedal cycle was at the time of the collision.
Every minute scrap of evidence is being identified for analysis.
We're basically working our way through the scene systematically. Chrome, it's chrome headlight surround, isn't it? Is it chrome? No, it's hard to tell if it's chrome or colour. I think it's chrome. It's definitely a Mini. Well, we're looking at for contact marks, we're looking for tyre marks, we're looking for anything to give us a point of impact.
It's clear that the bicycle had no lights on it or even a reflector. But it's proving impossible to deduce anything more from its mangled remnants.
The moment the bike's been hit, it's been accelerated and thrown forward, it becomes a projectile. So therefore, there's no we couldn't find the actual precise impact point, so we couldn't be definitive as to where it was on the road.
We have got a shoe missing that we can't find. I would suggest it's over there, but that's marshland. I'm not sending anyone over there at night. That can be done during the day.
The accident is high up on a viaduct with no hard shoulder or any spare room to cycle along at all.
And actually, if it had gone over the railings, he could have dropped down into the river that was below and nobody would have known that he was there.
We've given the chap a quick search.
The police believe the man had been busking and was returning home.
Some suggestion he might be a busker. He had a violin on his back and there seems to be some intelligence that he's sort of been busking with somebody.
Extraordinarily, his violin has survived in its case and is completely intact.
He's basically been riding his bicycle up here.
Yep.
No reflectives on.
As you do.
It don't appear to be any lights with the bike. We haven't found any lights with the bike.
Okay. Then head over that way.
The 24-year-old girl has arrived at Hatfield Police Station for questioning.
She had potentially committed a serious offence. A pedal cyclist has been hit by a motor vehicle, and as a result of that collision, the pedal cyclist has died. It's a sad situation for anybody. She was fully cooperative, she came from a nice family, and unfortunately it's one of those things that possibly could have happened to many people.
I'm going to authorise your detention here so that we can ascertain whether there's sufficient evidence to charge you with any offences. Obviously, I understand this is going to be a difficult time for you as well, but we need to look into what's happened and we need to work out how to deal with it.
And all the way through, she always said she thought she'd hit an animal. And then became scared. And I think it's only when she got home and spoke to stepdad, and I think a little bit of realisation set in, which is why then they called the police, because they believed it may have been something perhaps more than an animal, and that the police needed to be aware of what had happened, or potentially what may have happened.
Back at the scene of the accident, it's looking from all of the evidence that the girl is not to blame.
Is it reasonable that the driver didn't see him? Well, yes, it is reasonable, because, you know, he's in a black environment, he's on a trunk road, he's got no lights, he's got no reflectors, in completely dark. There's no contrast to help anyone see him as potentially being a hazard. It's likely that she wasn't on main beam because she's on a dual carriageway with other traffic coming towards them, so she would be driving on dip beam. And it's on a long sweeping curve as well, so as you're coming round, your lights are forward, although on dip beam they would be to the near side, but potentially, you know, he would be to the near side of her, and she still, you know, wouldn't necessarily pick him out.
Purely from her reaction when I've arrived and knocked on her door and told her that the sad news that she has killed somebody, I think she's telling me the truth.
Another discovery has been made which might have been a factor in the accident.
The paramedic who was dealing with the casualty informed us that he suspected that there may be an element of alcohol involved. Whether that's had any bearing on the collision, we don't know, but he did think that he could detect alcohol on the deceased. Like with most accidents, there's a chain of events that have happened, and it's all of those little bits that have led to, unfortunately, to this death occurring. Had one of those bits changed, it may have been a different outcome, may never have happened.
At his inquest, it was revealed that James McGee was nearly 2.5 times the legal limit for driving. The coroner described the gifted violinist's death as a tragic accident. The young Mini driver was not charged with any offences. The man with a stash of guns in his car, who was trapped after being hit from behind by a lorry, was released from hospital the following day. Kelsey, the young girl who was badly injured after crashing into a tree, spent 4 weeks in hospital recovering from her injuries. She had no recollection of her lucky escape.
Seeing the top of the car, how it was, I'm thinking, my goodness, I'm lucky that I'm alive.
And whether she was distracted or not will never be known.
There was no third-party influence. There was no defence that was put forward that could have given an excuse as to how that collision occurred. It was 99% down to driver error.